Have you ever felt something coming before you had any idea why? Kelly did. That grey Tuesday morning, when the mail fell with a soft thud on the rug, something inside her froze for a second. Among bills and flyers, there was a single postcard. No name, no return address, just a blurry photo of a deserted beach, and one sentence written in blue ink, "Get ready for the 14th, nothing will be the same." You're in Tales of the Watcher, where fates are glimpsed, not told, and every step you take is seen by eyes you'll never meet. The air hums with secrets, daring you to listen. Stick around, subscribe for the journey, and in today's story, Kelly, 34, chestnut hair usually tied up in a messy bun, worked as a freelance editor from home. A quiet, invisible kind of life. But since her brother vanished 2 years ago, disappearing without a trace during a short trip, she hadn't had a full night's sleep. The postcard, with its almost trivial tone, unearthed something she'd been trying to bury. The feeling that time sometimes loops back to settle unfinished business. For a moment, everything went silent, until the neighbor's dog began barking like it had seen something. Kelly closed the blinds, tried to forget. But that night, glancing at the postcard on her desk, she saw a drop of water on its surface, and no one had spilled anything. Maybe just condensation, or maybe something else, because whatever it was, it hadn't ended. In fact, it was just beginning. Kelly's house sat on a quiet street in a small town, the kind where time moves slower and neighbors rarely visit. The floorboards creaked at night, and the fridge made a humming sound that felt almost like breathing. She'd always liked that silence, until it started sounding deliberate. One day, a picture frame on the mantel fell on its own. On the back of the photo, a scribble. June 14th, 8:17 p.m. It was her brother's handwriting. That's when Kelly started documenting everything. Strange dreams of fine sand clinging to her feet. The smell of the ocean wafting from her closet. A missed call at exactly 8:17 p.m. No number listed. And the most unsettling part, the same postcard showing up in different places, once in the bathroom, then in the toolbox, always with the same message, but in slightly different handwriting, like someone was trying to copy her or learn how to be her. Kelly began to doubt herself. She'd lock the doors and then forget where she left the keys. Objects moved around even though she lived alone. The psychological tension was now a routine. Every sound, every flicker of shadow held weight, and the premonition on the postcard became an echo in her mind. The 14th, the 14th. Something was coming. She just didn't know from where. But she could feel it, like something was watching, even her thoughts. In the mornings, everything looked normal. The smell of coffee, birds tapping the window. But at dusk, things shifted. Shadows stretched unnaturally. One evening she found sand in the pocket of a coat she hadn't worn in years, since before her brother vanished. A memory she didn't want to revisit. She started dreaming the same scene over and over. A narrow hallway, a half-open door, her brother's voice saying, "Don't open it." The dreams left her trembling. Not nightmares, warnings, every note, every detail she wrote down. A candelabra flickered 3 times every night at 3:14 a.m. The old clock kept stopping at 8:17. Everything pointed to something buried in time, trying to crawl back into her life. The worst part? One night the doorbell rang, twice. She opened it. No one there. Just a folded, yellowing newspaper on the ground. The headline was vague, but the date, June 14th, was circled in red. Kelly wasn't just haunted by memory, she was being watched. And whatever it was getting closer. Kelly couldn't ignore it any longer. One night she climbed into the attic with a flashlight. Among dusty boxes, she found a folder. Inside were 3 identical postcards, same beach, same style, but the messages were different. Don't go. It's already too late. And the third, shaky. You still have a choice. She stayed up all night rereading them, studying the faded stamps, the odd postmarks. June 31st, February 30th. One was even dated June 17th, 3 days into the future. Impossible, but real. The seal was textured like vintage cards from the 80s. She snapped a photo to send to a friend, but her phone froze instantly. Next day, she went to the town's post office. The old clerk, who'd known her since childhood, paled at the sight of the cards. "This looks like what your brother left me before he disappeared," she whispered. Kelly stared in disbelief. "You had something from him and never told." "Me?" The woman hesitated, then pulled out an aged envelope. Inside, a note. "If anything happens to me, she'll know when the time comes. But don't trust what seems real." His signature, no doubt. That phrase hit her like a punch. Don't trust what seems real. She raced home, looked around. The wall clock, her grandmother's, always read 8:17, no matter how often she replaced the batteries. The TV turned off at that same time each night. She had thought it was a glitch. Now, it felt like a coded warning. The house felt tighter, smaller. Even with all the lights on, shadows lingered. She began losing track of time. Hours vanished. She found sticky notes with her handwriting, saying things she didn't remember writing. You already know what to do. Claustrophobia set in, not physical, but mental. She was boxed into something much larger than herself. Still, she kept going. Something was pulling her forward. Every clue added to a growing web of connections, dates, sounds, voices, feelings. Kelly was on the edge of something huge, and when she opened the last drawer in her brother's room, she knew. But what she found, that stays hidden. For now. The drawer creaked open like it hadn't moved in years. Inside, an old voice recorder and a cassette labeled Kelly in childlike handwriting. She pressed play. Her brother's voice came through, calm, but rushed. "If you're hearing this, the day has come. The house will try to stop you. Don't trust reflections. Don't trust time. You'll need to run." Then, a metallic clink, a muffled scream. The lights went out instantly. Kelly froze. The window slammed open. Papers flew everywhere. One photograph landed at her feet, her and her brother, dated June 14th, 1997. But she didn't remember that day. Or maybe she was never meant to. Suddenly, the front door slammed. Twice. Echoing like thunder. She ran downstairs. Nothing. Except the TV. It had turned on by itself. On screen, the same beach. But now a figure stood facing away in the center of the image. Then a whisper. "You've been here before." Kelly dropped to her knees. That wasn't a vision. It was a memory. The room descended into chaos. The TV exploded with a sharp pop. The back door burst open. Cold wind rushed in, swirling the postcards like dead leaves. Kelly chased one. It flew toward the stairs. She caught it. Last chance. Turn left. She paused. Everything around her had shifted. The sofa, shelves, chairs, like someone had walked through or something. And then, it all made sense. The postcard wasn't about the future. It was about a past still alive. June 14th, 1997. What had really happened? What had she blocked out? The clock struck 8:17. A sharp crack echoed from deep inside the house. A mirror shattered. And for one brief moment, the reflection wasn't hers. It was her brother's, older, eyes full of panic. Kelly blacked out, or thought she did. When she came to, she was on the floor, surrounded by postcards, spread out in a perfect circle. Her arms were scratched, her throat dry. She didn't remember how she got there, but she knew she wasn't alone anymore. And this was just the beginning. In the days that followed, Kelly tried to go back to normal, but how could she? She would wake up drenched in sweat, hearing creaks from the attic, tried calling someone, but the words caught in her throat. How do you explain that you saw time fold in on itself? That you saw your brother's reflection decades later? Guilt haunted her like a shadow. It felt like she had taken part in something and forgotten her role. The original postcard still sat on her desk, but now it had something new. In the bottom right corner, barely visible under bright light, a hidden message appeared. You weren't the target. You were the key. She read it over and over. The message wasn't just a warning, it was a handoff, an invitation for someone else. A week later, a new letter arrived. No return address. Inside, a newspaper clipping. Man found unconscious holding mysterious object. The picture showed a rusted keychain. Hanging from it, the same postcard. Kelly's hands went cold. This wasn't over. It was spreading. Someone else had been chosen. She replayed the cassette, this time with headphones. In the background, beneath her brother's words, she heard something. A tapping rhythm. Morse code. She spent hours deciphering it. Finally, the message came through. Next, Sarah. Who was Sarah? She didn't know anyone by that name, or had she forgotten again? Kelly began writing everything. Dozens of pages. She couldn't afford to forget. The postcards were changing. The beach scene, once empty, now had a silhouette inching closer day after day. Something or someone was moving toward her. And then, it happened. A new postcard. But it wasn't addressed to her. It had a different name, different handwriting. She considered burning it, destroying it, but she didn't. Instead, she placed it in an envelope and wrote a message on the back. Everything begins when the clock stops, and with that, the chain continued.